we're going to go to the Fed, and
The Fed.
we need to talk about this because we have to talk about it. There's not too much to talk about, but it's important. So let's kind of have a dense, focused conversation here. The Fed keeps rates steady as it notes lack of further progress on inflation. Federal Reserve held its ground on interest rates, again deciding not to cut as it continues to battle with inflation that has grown more difficult lately. Fed funds target rate has been between 5.25 and 5.5 since July of 23, when the Fed last hiked and took the range to its highest level in more than 2 decades. Also, July 23, coming around the corner 1 year ago. Now, that is definitely the definition of higher for longer, because they did not expect that they were going to be there. And now here's the thing, and I'm going to read this quote, and then I'm going to make my point. Ready? Quote, the committee does not expect it will be appropriate to reduce the target range until it has gained greater confidence that inflation is moving sustainably towards 2%. So remember how they said that they were going to be data-driven?
Yeah.
Well, now they have data-driven feelings. Because what they're saying, because we want to gain greater confidence that's moving sustainably. That confidence is only going to come, that feeling of confidence is only going to come from better data. They don't have better data. It's not working the way they want it to. And I don't think they have a way out.
Yeah,
I don't.
Their data is just garbage, right? Like it's crazy. You know, one of the things I feel like we are all getting punished, right? Inflation is high because we spend money. And what they're saying is we're spending our money, but what they really are not saying is our credit card debt, it's the highest ever. The way we're spending money is we need to go borrow to be able to spend it for our daily use of things.
Daily necessities, yeah.
But here, the government's saying, no, you're spending your money and therefore inflation is going up. So we're going to just continue to possibly increase the rates. So it's just stuff like that, Andy, that I'm just like, this is funny. Now the government's telling us exactly how we should be spending.
Well, I mean...
how fair is that?
Well, here's the thing. First of all, let me acknowledge it's easy for us to sit here and armchair quarterback this thing because we're not Jerome Powell, right?
We're not.
At the same time, though,
thank goodness,
we have a different perspective and we're not responsible for the things he's responsible for. But, I mean, it's easy to say here now, like this is broadly not going the way they want.
No.
The whole point was let's get to where we need to go. And look, I remember people saying when the Fed started hiking rates, they just need to go to where they need to get quicker. And they were like, even though we have this like massive acceleration of interest rate hikes and meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting from March of 22, but the whole thing is if they knew they needed to be here at 5.25 to 5.5, you could make the argument they could just jump there. Yeah. Now it would have caused a different type of wreckage, but now we have like this slow wreck versus a hard wreck that we could correct. And because people have to continue spending, buying things, I mean, I have 2 choices for milk.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to tell this right now. Walmart, I can go buy organic milk, a gallon, $6.50. Oh, no, $8.50. Okay.
Wow.
At Trader Joe's, where everything's more expensive, it's $6.50.
Wow.
Why is it cheaper for organic milk over at Trader Joe's than Walmart? Isn't Walmart the low-cost solution for most neighborhoods, right? But, you know, a gallon of milk is going to cost me $6.50 over here, $8.50 over here. It's still $6.50 or $8.50.
Yeah.
You know, if gas, right, I mean, I filled the car the other day. What was it? $5.29 for regular.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm paying $5.79 for that 91 octane for the other car. So, you know, so I understand it's easy to armchair quarterback, but these are real things. And as stated, Jerome Powell said this. He's like, this hurts people at the bottom of the economic ladder. And
exactly.
It absolutely does. There's no choice. If you don't have extra income or more discretionary income or any savings, the only choice is to be on subsidies or spending on your credit cards. And that's what we've seen happen.
Yeah. I mean, hey, continue to print out that money, right? And there's already talks about that maybe we'll be seeing more printing of money. Well,
yeah, I know. But
I
don't think that's not the solution.
It's how we spend.
That's not the solution.
There isn't. And we just keep putting a Band-Aid on things and prolonging the process. You know, these are things like, I remember in the beginning when rates were going up, just continue to go up. Just continue to go up. Don't stop in October. Just continue to go up so that hopefully by this time now, this year, we would have seen the difference already. Hopefully we could have kept now going down with interest rates. But hey, what was the talk last year? We're going to see 6 to 8 rate cuts.
It was projected, and then it was 3 to 4. And now we're like maybe 1 or 2.
Maybe I don't even think the 2. I think it's just that 1 or maybe an increase, and that's where people are very shaky right now. Right on the last, are they going to increase that rate? Well,
I don't know. I mean, we did this whole like predict on the show thing at the beginning of the year, and we all had different numbers, and we're like, we'll see who wins at the end of the year. Like, dude, this one's messy. This is honestly messy because, you know, we sit here from a position of like mortgage and real estate and, you know, general economics, kind of macro, big picture things. But This is affecting every industry. I have not talked to any other business owner where they're like, oh yeah, inflation's no problem.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen this now with even the regular consumer now purchasing homes and stuff like that. People are still purchasing right now because they understand this, that something else worse than what they thought was going to happen, like an increase is going to happen. So I might as well buy now versus I think I'm going to wait and see what's going to happen. I think people are
waiting isn't working.
That.
Waiting hasn't worked out for anybody. We've been saying this for show after show. It's like, hey, people on the sidelines, if you're waiting for mortgage rates, you probably aren't going to get in.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're waiting for prices to come down. Oh, whoops, they haven't. And so it's like if you were in a position of, I'm waiting to save more money. Well, yeah, you're going to. I guess you can continue saving more money.
Yeah.
But you're going to have slow erosion of that based on the increased costs and sustained costs being increased because of inflation running rampant. And they're clearly not in control of inflation. The whole funny thing about this to me is that the Fed's stated goal is to get inflation back to 2%, which they're not in control of, yet they say that they are, but they acknowledge that they aren't, and they are chasing it all the time.
Yeah.
Because even the efforts they've taken at this point to try to nudge it back there or shove it back there still haven't worked.
Crazy.
So I don't see an easy way out of this.
So what do we need to do,
sorry,
Andy?
that sounds pessimistic.
If you were Jerome Powell, Andy Powell, what would we need to do?
Okay, it's easy to say this from the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
They should have just gone to exactly the rate they needed to be, like right away. They did this back in the 80s. I think it was Volcker that did this back in the 80s when there was massive inflation, stagflation.
19.
Yeah, and they just did it right away. Now, I know a lot of things have changed. Our monetary policy has changed a lot, and the Fed's what they're charged with doing now is a little different too. Our global economics is different than it was back then 40 years ago. But I think getting to where they thought they needed to be would have been a better move, like right away or in bigger chunks rather than like, little step, little step, little step, little step, big step, little step, little step, little step. Because now it's prolonged this whole thing. And now we're not even talking about soft landing. We're not talking about transitory anymore. When's the last time they used those words? They haven't, because they can't.
Yeah.
They can't. So I'm not sitting here with a solution. I'm sitting here with frustration, and I don't mean to be pessimistic about it either. But like, look, I'm a representation of people that are out there buying the stuff at the store, filling my car for $101 the other day, with 87 gas.
Yeah.
Like, and the answer isn't, everybody get electric. That's not the answer either.
Yeah.
That's not the answer, because SDG&E, maybe some of you know this.
Yeah.
Here in San Diego, per capita, San Diego has per capita the highest electrical rates in the country.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know that.
They're one of the most profitable.
Now, here's another thing I wanted to say too, is you're starting to see these cracks show up. We got California, we got fast food workers going to $20 an hour. That's one thing. Prices are going to go up. They went up the same day that happened, number one. I talked to someone the other day. I'm not going to mention who it was. I'm not going to mention the business they talked about either. It was a local furniture store, and it's called Furniture Store.
Yeah.
That's the name.
Yeah.
Furniture for less. Okay? It's a very well-known furniture place. They're down 70% in sales this year.
Wow. Yeah.
70%. 10% is a hard year for most people. 20, you're cutting people, you're making 70 is you're staring at the coffin unless you course correct that really quick.
That's crazy.
But I mean, are you going to go out and buy a couch right now? Unless you absolutely have to.
You don't need it. You don't need it.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. It's more of a want versus a need.
And what comes with expensive furniture? How do people normally pay for it?
Yeah. Credit card.
Credit card, or they finance it.
0% interest for the first 12 months.
Well, right. But
and then it goes to like 30%.
We can't get that no more, right? Right. Yeah. So again, this ripple effects of this interest rate, kind of like this interest rate environment and all this stuff, it's everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Messy.
Yeah. I think that the Fed is going to have to hold this longer. I think you're right. I think they may only do one cut this year, if they do it at all. There was one person calling for a cut like in July. I still don't think it's going to happen.
No.
There's nothing there to support that. Until they like dip below 2% on inflation, they're not going to average out at 2% inflation.
And I mean, here's everything else that goes into it, all these wars that we're going through, and that we continue to provide funding to, et cetera. It's just gonna.
You're gonna start fights in the comments.
It's just gonna prolong everything, right? It's just gonna. What I'm saying is, I'm not going with disagreement or agreement. I'm just saying this is just something that's just gonna keep stretching this situation longer.
I guess the question I find myself asking off camera and to myself is, if this is not their intention, then what would they be doing different?
Yeah.
Like if this is what you're attempting to do to our economy, then keep going. Great, do it. But then just tell us you're doing it. Don't pretend like you're not doing it and you're doing it. Nah. Because if you're not intending to cause harm to the economy, then change course.
Yeah.
Change course, do something different, find something new, work on something. Maybe there's something you aren't telling us that you could just like wave a wand and figure it out. That sounds so stupid.
Yeah.
I know that's dumb. I'm not saying that from a place of a posture of knowledge. I'm just saying, like, look, if you knew there was a better way to do this, they probably should be doing it.
Well,
that's my takeaway.
Is this all going to work out right now with the quantitative tightening?
Quantitative easing and the tightening, no. I mean, the reduction of the balance sheet and rolling off mortgages is fine, but again, that fueled the mortgages of 2020 and 21, which we refinanced half the planet.
That's how rates
and had some really great
way
years,
down.
and that's fine. But and of course, everyone was able to benefit from that, from lenders to homeowners to people selling their homes to all the companies connected to the real estate market. Everyone was having stellar years. And there are going to be those years. But now the opposite of that is that you have people stuck. And the Fed now is stuck. And they're being data reliant. Now their feelings are going to be a representation of the data. And the data isn't going the way they want. And they also have to show good face to the public while also not changing their tone so much to cause freakouts or panic.
Yeah. Well, you know what's great I think the freakout was, they always say that Jerome Powell is one of the most influential men in the world, right? If the guy just squints negatively, like that's it. The stock market just goes crazy. In the last Fed meeting, I noticed how when he was getting asked these questions, I mean, they were good questions, but he was backpedaling. He was just like getting stuck on what to say or just kind of detoured from the question. It was great to see.
Well, there's
that.
like the answer you can give and the answer you're supposed to give from the front. And those are different sometimes. He's got to stand up there and hold the line on the things they're saying they're working towards and the reasons they're doing or not doing certain things.
Well, my opinion, Andy, he knows what to do. He just can't do it.
That makes me very frustrated.
Yeah.
Honestly, it just that sucks.
It does.
But we're going to see more from the Fed at their next meeting, and then we'll figure out what that means. But